ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. Over the past couple of years, the big story in the gambling industry has been the rise of sports betting and iGaming. A big part of the gambling industry that probably doesn't get enough press is responsible gambling. I think one of the biggest elements of a successful gambling industry are the components and programs the industry uses to promote responsibility in gambling. And one organization out there that is doing an incredible job in the field of responsible gambling is the Entain Foundation US. And we're going to hear all about the Entain Foundation because coming up, I'm talking with Martin Lycka and Bill Pascrell III from the Entain Foundation US. We're going to find out all about the programs they created and the organizations they've teamed up with to promote responsibility in the gambling industry. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
For everybody. Oh. Game starts at 20, bet slip is empty. I gotta call KG.
KG, what up?
I got nothing for you, Fox.
Ah, come on. What you got, huh?
And it's spa day, Jamie. You don't interrupt spa day.
Okay. Gracie, what's up? I need some tips.
Jamie, you want a tip?
Yeah. No. Come on, somebody. Jalen, what's up, man? You want a tip? Yeah.
You really want a tip?
I really need some tips. Don't call somebody on live TV, Jamie Foxx.
Well, you answered. Have other friends anyway.
Marshawn, Barry, holla.
Jamie Foxx. Hey, what's up with it, Fox?
Listen, I need some tips.
I like L.A.
L.A.?
No, Dallas.
Dallas?
Not the
Dallas?
best. We gotta get to Miami. How about Detroit? Nah, Barry over there.
You know what? I'm gonna call y'all right now. Vanessa, I need your help.
I got a tip for you. Always go with your gut.
I like that. Going with my gut.
Let's go with our gut.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Yeah, we can check privately for that. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention. Use the offer code SPIKE404. They'll give you 50% off almost anything.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. I'm of the belief that what makes the sports betting industry successful for operators is a strong, responsible gambling program. There's no better customer than a knowledgeable and responsible customer, in my opinion. And there's an organization out there that is doing amazing things for responsible gambling, and that is the Entain Foundation US. And right now we have two board members of this important organization with us. Martin Lycka is Senior Vice President for American Regulatory Affairs and Responsible Gambling for Entain, and Bill Pascrell III, who has been on this show several times, is a partner at the Princeton Public Affairs Group, which is the largest statewide lobbying firm in the U.S., and they are both on the phone with us right now. Martin, welcome to the show, and Bill, welcome back to the show. Great to have you both with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, David. Yep.
I gotta say, I told you off air, what you guys are doing is amazing because I think responsible gambling is such an important aspect for the success of the gambling industry. Martin, let's start off with you since this is your first time on the show. Can you tell everyone something about the Entain Foundation US and its mission in the sports betting industry?
I'd be only happy to. Thanks again for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. We launched the foundation, coming on to 3 years ago together with Bill, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will also be delighted to hear that the third trustee of the foundation happens to be none other than Armani Tuma, of course, the Super Bowl winner and the Giants' all-time leading receiver. We've had a lot of pleasure of having worked with Armani, who's really bought, to your initial point, he's really bought into the cause of responsible gambling. The foundation has landed a number of major partnerships across the nation, including with the likes of the Harvard Medical School. We've been working very closely with Nevada-based UNLV. We also have a partnership, and happy to discuss all of those in much more detail, with the Charles Oakley Foundation. So yet another sporting giant we've been working with. And to give you but one final example, together with an organization called Epic Risk Management, we've set off on a journey to educate both college and professional athletes and wider sports about responsible gambling and sports integrity. By now, we've done about 70 colleges across the country.
Well, let me ask Bill this. I mean, because you've been on the show several times, and because I think you're an expert in the gambling and sports betting field. I mean, you're an attorney, and you've tackled a lot of the issues that have faced the sports betting and horse racing industries. Drawing from your past experiences, why is responsible gambling so important for the gambling industry?
David, thank you so much for having us. It's really an honor and an inspiration to be on with you. I've always enjoyed our interactions, and I'm blessed to be able to be on again. So thank you very much.
Oh, we love having you.
You know, Martin, thank you, David. Martin Lycka is a global phenom and very unique. His leadership, he's a humble man, perhaps unlike me. He's very understated, but
you're not humble, Bill. No, you're not.
We always call Bill Radio Gold because he's not afraid to say things. He's awesome on the radio.
Yeah, BP3's here in the flesh, and I'm thrilled to do it. So this is why this is so inspirational and valuable to me. So I've represented Martin's company for 13 years now. I met Martin about 4 years ago. And one of the first things Martin did for me was allow me to be on the board of the U.S. Foundation for Entain for Responsible Gambling. They are a unique company, the largest online gaming public company in the globe, based out of the UK, with licenses in over 30 jurisdictions, including multiple U.S. states through the BetMGM partnership. Here's the important thing. It's very rare to find, up until now, a global gaming company that understands the importance of RG. Why is it important for your listeners, and why is it important for the broader consumer base? It's most important, even though it's the right thing to do, David, right? We were born and raised with proper families who taught us ethics and honor and doing the right thing, but it's also the commercially responsible thing to do. And why is that? This industry has a major task ahead of it while it's rolling out. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary from the repeal of Pascrell and the launch in New Jersey and multiple other states. You know, we now have 36 states across the country that have either launched or about to launch in the next 5 to 6 months.
Yep.
RG, when you look at Australia and the UK, okay, was not taken seriously by the operators. And so what happened? Addiction spiked, and the regulators came down hard. And what's happened in the UK is just god awful, because you've had in addition to a spike in problem gambling, you've had a massive spike in suicides related to that. And so we get that. We understand it. We cannot treat the problem gambler as the brick and mortar casino industry historically has treated. And you know this, David, full well. The last 4 or 5 decades in Vegas and New Jersey and then all the other retail casino operation states have treated the addicted gambler as their VIP customer. Oh, yeah, you got a problem. Don't worry. We'll give you another marker. We'll give you more free bets. We'll keep you going at it. Online gaming cannot afford to do that in sports betting, casino, poker, whatever, horse racing, etc. And the reason for that is we are one newspaper headline away from regulators coming down hard on the industry in terms of free bets, bonus bets, advertising, spin rates, etc. That's why it's important to create a sustainable sports betting industry that we can all enjoy and that these companies can profit from in the proper way.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Drizzly makes it easy to shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and liquor from wherever I am. I just open the app, find what I want, and it's at my door in under 60 minutes.
Drizzly. Ding dong, Drizzly.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the House of Cards?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Martin Lycka and Bill Pascrell III from the Entain Foundation US. Well, Martin, let me build on what Bill just said. I mean, what you're doing with Entain is, I think it's groundbreaking and has never been done before. As the sports betting industry grows, how is the centerpieces and the components of responsible gaming programs have grown? Because let me tell you something. I grew up in a town called Hamilton Township, New Jersey. Bill probably knows it. It's right outside of Trenton. And growing up, I always passed it was the Office for New Jersey Council on Compulsive Gambling. It's the 1-800-GAMBLER. From time I was a teenager, I saw the 1-800-GAMBLER sign when I drove around Hamilton Township, New Jersey. And for me, that was the only responsible gambling program that I knew of for a couple decades. And they're still out there and they're still doing great work. But how has responsible gaming programs grown from that?
That's massively changed. First of all, thank you very much for your very kind words, David. And Bill's turning me into some kind of a unicorn, if not Tom Brady of the responsible gambling world.
There you go.
But at the same time, and we've done this double act before. You know, shame on Bill for never have taken me to Hamilton Township. Bill, you will have to redeem yourself and fix that. But on a much more serious note, and to your question, David, the helpline, the 1-800-GAMBLER, still has a lot of relevance and importance.
Absolutely.
But clearly, going back to Bill's point about the distinction between land-based retail casinos, if you will, and online gambling, especially online sports betting, there are many more tools out there that help ultimately individualize both the level and the scope of the customer care that we provide our players with. So what Entain has been striving to achieve on the global level is to categorize our customers and then within those categories determine what are the most efficient tools that would allow us and the customers to meet the two key objectives here. And the two key objectives are, first of all, we need to do everything in our power to make sure that while gambling with us, the customers enjoy themselves. It's a sufficiently attractive proposition. And a lot of sports wagering markets, the latest set of online casino and poker games, but at the same time, and that's the other objective of the other tenet, if you will, is to ensure that customers, while enjoying themselves, do it in a reasonable and sustainable fashion. And Bill has always hit the nail on the head. Responsible gambling is not only the right thing to do, because that sounds just too cheesy. Mm-hmm. It's also a very smart business strategy. Because ever since the repeal of POSPA, now we've been riding the waves of new regulation, one state after another joining that particular club of states that have regulated sports wagering. And that's great to see. There's a huge opportunity.
Sure.
But for that opportunity to crystallize and stick around in the long run, we need to be smart about how we grasp it, how we seize it, how we take advantage of it. And the only way is by means of offering the highest possible standard of customer care. And especially, that will be my final point, especially with an eye on the younger generations. Of course, everybody 21 plus, that's the foundation. Only people of age are allowed to gamble on our sites and the wider industry sites. But these folks especially take care much more, or care about on an even bigger scale. They care about doing business with ethical companies. So that's where the two key elements meet. The commercial objective, catering to your customers, and make sure that the customers don't burn out, that they keep coming back. So that's why being responsible about the gambling offer is very smart and a no-brainer in my view.
Well, let me ask you about the different states. I mean, one of the challenging things about working in the sports betting industry in the United States is that each state has different rules and regulations when it comes to sports betting and are at different stages of the industry. I have an office in New Jersey, but I also have an office right outside of Boston, Massachusetts, which just made sports betting legal last week or 2 weeks ago. Does Entain Foundation have different approaches for different states when it comes to responsible gambling, depending on where those states are in their respective industries? I mean, would you approach Massachusetts differently than New Jersey when it comes to responsible gambling programs?
Well, if I may give you a rather loyally answer, because I'm a qualified solicitor back home in the UK, yes and no. And what do I mean by that? Yes, because we need to reflect. We need to reflect all the individual idiosyncrasies that apply to the individual markets. There may not be, I suppose, culturally, probably there's not such a huge difference between New Jersey and Massachusetts, but arguably there are huge cultural differences between, let's say, New Jersey, Massachusetts on one hand, and the likes of Arizona, Midwest, the West Coast on the other hand. So that goes back to my point about individualization. You know, what may work for one customer, one group of customers may not work for other customers. My usual example is late night play. You know, some folks, either owing to the nature of their jobs, they play late in the night without that affecting their ability to make smart decisions about their gambling. To the cultural point, especially the Latino group, of course, they're known for late dinners, and then they may want to go and have a couple of flutters, a couple of wagers. So again, that would not be an indicator. So that's part of the yes answer. You know, reflect cultural differences, reflect the fact that people behave differently. What works for one customer in terms of protecting them may not work for another customer. The no, finally coming on to the no means that regardless of everything I have just said, and I'm not trying to contradict myself, what's critically important is to have very, very strong foundations in terms of protection tools and policy protocols that apply across the piece and do create that responsible gambling culture that we have talked about.
See, that's what happens when you get three lawyers on the line. You're going to get a lot of yes and no answers. So, but I want to ask this question to both of you, because in the past couple of weeks, I have had my responsible gambling antennas go up. Bill, you mentioned there's a lot of states that are planning for sports betting. Massachusetts, Ohio, Kansas, Maryland is going to get ready. And over the last couple of weeks, I've seen some very interesting applications and heard some very interesting things from potential sports books. I know in one meeting in Massachusetts, one potential sports book said, you know, we plan on having kiosks in our parking garages, which shocked me. And then what shocked me even more, in Ohio, a high school just applied for a sports betting license. How early is it in time that we should start talking about programs for responsible gambling in this state? I mean, is it imperative that in Massachusetts and Ohio and Kansas and Maryland, should they be talking about programs right now before it even starts? I'd love to get your reaction from both of you on that one.
Jersey announced in May with all the industry leaders, all of them, all the major book operators, to come together. Unfortunately, Entain and Kindred have been the trailblazers, but the other books are starting to realize the importance of getting ahead of the curve, self-regulation before the regulators come down hard and start blocking certain activities. Most of the sports betting operators historically have just checked the box and put their 1-800 number up.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. That's not enough. The 1-800 number is just one piece of the puzzle. You need to have therapy, real folks behind that 1-800 number that know how to educate people. So that's why we're going to continue to move forward and not only educating consumers, but regulators on various ways to use innovation to trampoline down and impact problem gambling.
Stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards. Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of December 5th, 2022. The New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement reported a record for the online gaming industry. For the month of October, the Garden State's online casinos reported a revenue of $147.2 million. That figure broke the previous record of $140.7 million set back in March and is almost 16% higher than October of last year. Facebook has updated its policy regarding gambling ads on their platform. According to the new requirements, potential advertisers will have to receive written permission from Meta, show that they are licensed gambling entities in the jurisdiction they will be displayed in, and not target the potential advertisement toward viewers under 18 years of age. At the moment, these requirements will be for online gambling platforms only and not brick-and-mortar casinos. And finally, the World Poker Tour is gearing up for 2 record-setting events this month. On December 16th, the 3-day WPT Ladies Championship starts, which has a $200,000 guaranteed prize pool, a record for a women's event. And the WPT World Championship Festival, currently running until December 19th, features an event starting on the 12th with a record guaranteed prize pool of $15 million. It's a good month to be a poker player. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'm talking sick piles of money. I'm talking lay on your bed in your Vegas room, throw the money in the air, and dance as it showers down on you money. I'm talking frosted glass limo money. I'm talking big cowboy hat, silver turquoise buckle money. I'm talking gambling.
I am in love with you.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with Drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Martin Lycka and Bill Pascrell III from the Entain Foundation US. Martin, what do you think? When is the best time to start the responsible gambling conversation, especially when some of these states have yet to start sports betting?
Yeah, there's never too soon. So the sooner the better. It needs to be baked into the legislative process to make sure that there is sufficient funding and that the responsible gambling culture is being embedded right off the bat from the word go, and then that should trickle and cascade down through regulation, licensing, and then even more importantly, once the markets have launched and through the life cycle of the regulated markets. And to Bill's point, it most definitely needs to be a collaborative effort.
Yep.
So the legislators, the regulators, they create the environment where both regulated gambling and, on the back of it, responsible gambling needs to thrive. Then it's up to the operators to step up to the plate and put in place efficient tools to prevent customers, and then of course being supported by the likes of the responsible gambling advocates. We've already talked about the helplines and the likes of the National Council on Problem Gambling and the respective state chapters. With the ultimate goal is to put a customer in a position that he or she can make the right and the smart decision. And sometimes that tends to get either, if not neglected, then underestimated. Because ultimately it's the customer that makes these decisions. Don't get me wrong, there's an onus on the industry to create that environment that I have talked about, but there is a very strong element of customer's liability for his or her own action. And if I may very briefly make 2 points to address the initial part of your question, David. Mm-hmm. Allowing a high school to have a betting kiosk, that's just right out crazy.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why anybody would want to allow that. But to address rather lunatic situations like this, we've tried to bake this in. So to give you a few examples, the Entain Foundation US has launched a US-facing responsible gambling awareness app. It's called Gamble Responsibly America. It's available in the App Store, Google Store. It's not a commercial venture. It's available for free. Okay. So those who fancy downloading that, please do that, because you will find there a lot of good stuff, useful information about both problem and responsible gambling. In a similar vein, and I believe that's what the industry has somewhat struggled with. I'm sure that our comms people will not be too fond of me saying that, but sadly, and thanks again for the opportunity, responsible gambling is not the sexiest topic ever. But to make it attractive and to make sure that the folks out there listen to what may appear to be rather, if not tedious, then dreary, we've been on a mission to identify responsible gambling ambassadors. We've already talked about Amani Tuma, and that's also the reason why we've started working with the likes of Charles Oakley. And that's the bottom line and my final point on that. Mm-hmm. Folks out there will be paying a lot of attention and will be able to relate to the likes of Armani and Charles. Now, don't take it from me. I may even be considered biased. I've been in this industry for 13 years and I've been preaching about responsible gambling for a while. But if you get to see these guys, the likes of Charles Oakley, Armani Tuma, talk about it, really having really bought into the cause, then I believe then ultimately that will help lift the stigma associated with gambling as such, and people will pause and think about why they gamble and how they gamble.
Well, I want to ask you about your opinion on what should sports books be doing to promote responsible gambling. I mean, in the media, we hear about the commercials, talk about bonuses and promos, and don't get me wrong, I do it too. We're going to go to a commercial break, and you're going to hear me read a commercial about the bonuses and promos of sports books and things like that. What should the sports books be doing to promote responsible gambling?
give it more time and space in their adverts. And efforts are being made in that regard. So don't get me wrong. It's not as though we've been starting from scratch, and it's not as though this issue would have been ignored. No. I think that all this would be coming from the naysayers, or as they used to call them in the UK, the bashing brigade. So a lot is already being done, but at the same time, a lot more can be done. So specifically when it comes to advertising, you would typically get to see at the end of every spot perhaps a 2-second segment about responsible gambling, or there are a couple of responsible gambling or some responsible gambling wording in font 6 that nobody can see. Now, make that bigger, make that responsible gambling segment longer, or have dedicated responsible gambling adverts. And to be fair, the likes of Caesars, to some extent, Flutter, so actually our competitors, they have done bits and pieces in this space. Caesars had the Manning brothers. They asked them to talk about responsible gambling. Flutter have launched dedicated US-facing responsible gambling adverts. So all that, plus on top of it, and that I believe is the key message that every gambling regulator would agree with. Don't be disingenuous about your advertising. If you're offering 500 risk-free bets, then first of all, there's no such thing as a risk-free bet.
No.
That's inherent to any bet. But explain to the folks what you mean, and then everybody understands where they stand. Going back to my previous point, put customers in a position to make a smart decision. If they decide to chase those 500 risk-free bets, then fine, as long as they have all the information they need. So I believe this is what can be done.
Bill, I want to ask you about what you mentioned before. You mentioned the court case from New Jersey went to the Supreme Court that overturned PASPA. And, during that case, I know you followed it closely like I did. I remember the professional league said the worst thing you could do in life is bet on sports. And they really seem to have modified their stance, to say it mildly. I mean, they seem to really come to terms with sports betting all the way to the point where some teams have sports books in their stadiums. And they've been really upfront with promoting responsible gambling. And in fact, Entain Foundation has a partnership with the NFLPA to promote responsible gambling. What is Entain Foundation doing with the NFLPA to promote responsible gambling?
David, the NFL, which, as you know, and you've heard me say on your show, I lost a lot of respect for during the PASPA litigation because I thought it was obnoxiously hypocritical for them to say that somehow legalizing sports betting throughout the country would somehow impact integrity when people have been placing bets in Nevada for decades. That being said, I think the NFL realizes, as I think a lot of the leagues do, and have embraced Entain strategy using Epic Risk Management and a few other partners to not only educate consumers, but to educate the athletes, the coaches, and the staff and personnel, because we've seen instances where players, particularly in the early years, have been wagering on their own sport. And, I don't think in a corruptive way, but just because they enjoyed it. So that is important for the sustainability of the industry and to continue to be able to have a game that has integrity. So going into locker rooms, which we've been doing both at the collegiate and, in the pro level, like the NFLPA in collaboration with, it's critical because it seems like common sense to many people that you have to be careful about how you gamble. But, it's more than just losing money. It's impacting everyone around you and your family and your children and your partner and your parents. That's what we've been working on.
Well, Bill, I want to ask you about what Entain Foundation is doing with educational institutions like Seton Hall in New Jersey. I saw your picture on the website, so I want to ask you about Seton Hall and also UNLV International Gaming Institute. What is Entain Foundation doing with those universities, and why are those partnerships so important for the responsible gambling cause?
So Seton Hall Law School is my alma mater, and Martin had tasked me with finding a university to launch a Gaming Institute. And so we launched in October of 2019 with Martin, Dean Buzang, Seton Hall Law School, and Amani Toomer, the Seton Hall Gaming Compliance and Integrity Gaming Institute. We've had 3 boot camps now, all of which were successful. We're going to have another one in May of next year. And so what we're doing is we're trying to educate folks, not only in the legal world, but in terms of folks that deal with compliance and marketing and payments, et cetera, for how to get into the industry. Most of the talent at the mid-tier and higher-tier levels in the sports books have come from abroad because there isn't a lot of experience and knowledge. So we're using that institute to educate people. Similarly, at UNLV, Martin has had a great partnership with UNLV and Bo Bernard to address problem gambling in an academic way, to have a research-based approach to addressing responsible gambling. So it's not just a knee-jerk, it's foundation and research-based.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Game starts at 20, bet slip is empty. I gotta call KG.
KG, what up?
I got nothing for you, Fox.
Ah, come on. What you got, huh?
And it's spa day, Jamie. You don't interrupt spa day.
Ah, okay. Gracie, what's up?
I need some tips.
Jamie, you want a tip? Yeah.
No.
Come on, somebody. Jalen, what's up, man?
You want a tip?
Yeah. You really want a tip? I really need some tips.
Don't call somebody on live TV, Jamie Foxx.
Well, you answer. Have other friends anyway.
Marshawn, Barry, holla.
Jamie Foxx. What's up with it, Fox?
Listen, I need some tips.
I like L.A.
L.A.?
No, Dallas.
Dallas?
Dallas not the
Dallas?
best. We gotta get to Miami. How about Detroit? Nah, Barry over there.
You know what? I'm gonna call y'all right back. Vanessa, I need your help.
I got a tip for you. Always go with your gut.
I like that. Going with my gut. Let's go with our gut.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Whoa! I think we got a show. Oh, yeah, we got a show. We definitely got a show. Oh, yeah, there's a show. Hey, it's all about ratings, baby, and we got them.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Martin Lycka and Bill Pascrell III from the Entain Foundation US. Well, Martin, let me ask you. You mentioned Harvard Medical School that Entain has a partnership, but you also have a partnership with the National Council on Problem Gambling. Can you tell us about those partnerships and what Entain is doing with them?
Absolutely. So back in 2018, we launched a 5-year research partnership with the Division on Addiction of the Harvard Medical School, arguably the leading researchers into causes of gambling addiction and problem gambling. And the wider Entain organization, including the foundation, has been sharing customer-related data with Harvard, of course, all anonymized, aggregated, and for research purposes. And they have been feeding that research back, and we've been reflecting it into a revamp of our technology platform that services our customers, including from the consumer protection perspective. Regarding the National Council on Problem Gambling, for those listeners who may not know, the National Council on Problem Gambling is the leading advocacy organization in this space across the nation. So we work with them really closely with a view to molding the responsible gambling culture in the United States that we have talked about. To give you but one example of a project, we launched a project that specifically focuses on the military veterans. We launched a website. It's called Operation RG, of course, RG for Responsible Gambling, that focuses on this particular demographic with a view to, once again, providing them with information about responsible gambling practices.
Now, I have a question about Entain, and Martin or Bill, anyone can answer, and it's something I know really little bit about, and that's NFTs. Now, Entain Foundation has NFTs centered around problem gambling. I'm pretty new to the NFT world. Martin or Bill, can you tell me something about NFTs? What can people expect when they get these NFTs from the Entain Foundation US?
The first thing to say about those particular NFTs, that similarly to that responsible gambling awareness app I've already talked about,
okay,
it's not a commercial venture. So any proceeds that may be generated, and we've already sold quite a few of those NFTs, they will be donated to a charity, actually, the Charles Oakley Foundation. And the reason or the rationale behind having launched those NFTs has been to attract further attention to problem and responsible gambling as a phenomenon, especially within the younger demographics, because needless to say, that's how these guys tend to communicate, social media and all the hypey stuff of late, like NFTs themselves. So that's the idea, to once again to make the topic that we're talking about little less dreary and more accessible to the audience, to an audience that otherwise perhaps might not have taken that much interest in it.
Entain Foundation is doing amazing things in the world of responsible gambling, and we just talked about a few of them. But what else is the Entain Foundation doing, and what plans do you have for the coming year?
There are certainly big plans, especially as part of our partnership with Epic Risk Management. I wouldn't want to be giving away too much. Hopefully, we will be invited back on the show, because it's been a great fun, and thanks for having us again. But of course, there are a lot of, let me put it this way, sports organizations out there that arguably could use even more help and support when it comes to responsible gambling related education. So that is part of the plan. There's also an initiative on the NFT front we have just talked about that, and again, hopefully I'm not giving too much away, but it involves Charles Oakley. So please do stay tuned and watch this space. But ultimately, and even more importantly, the goal is to rally the US facing and ultimately the global sports betting and online gambling industry around the responsible gambling cause. So we've been doing a lot of work in that regard. It's not necessarily that visible to the public eye, requires a lot of work behind the scenes, but I'm pleased to report that I believe that the industry is getting there. Everybody's been really stepping up in terms of protecting our customers, because this is, in my view, the only way to achieving long-term sustainability of what has become a staple, I would suggest, of the U.S., not even gambling, but the wider sports-related culture, i.e. sports betting. PASPA's been revoked. Operators have come in. They've landed and launched amazing partnerships across the piece, including with the media and the leagues and the individual sports teams. but to continue to cherish it, to protect it, to keep it, as I've already said, we need to be smart, and being smart in this particular instance means protecting our customers by means of launching very robust responsible gambling as well as sports integrity and wider consumer protection protocols. So that's what we've been working on, and that's what we fully intend to continue working on with this goal, with the goal I just alluded to.
Well, we're running out of time, but can you give out the website for the Entain Foundation US so people can go check it out, and also where people can go download your app?
The app, and thanks for asking, the app is available in both the App Store and the Google Play Store. As I've said, it's there for free. It's not a commercial venture. It's an educational tool, and the website is entainfoundationus.com. So you will be able to find us there. And as always, Bill and I tend to attend all big and even smaller industry conferences. So if anybody fancies talking to us about responsible gambling and other things, then we would be most happy to oblige.
Martin Lycka and Bill Pascrell III from the Entain Foundation US, thanks so much for coming on and telling us all about the great work the Entain Foundation is doing with regard to responsible gambling. It's such a huge issue for the gambling and sports betting industry, so please come back on and keep us updated about what's going on with the Entain Foundation US. Thank you so much for your time today.
We'd love to do that, and thanks for having us, David.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll talk to you later on House of Cards.
You build a house of cards.